School World's ELL Talks. For today's video, we're gonna talk about language and culture. Let's get started!
Okay, good afternoon, co-majors, and welcome to my FLA first video. In today's video, we're going to discuss the relationship between language and culture. For me, there cannot be a society without a language and culture. The ethos of a society represent through its culture and language. Provides a cultural identity, the knowledge, beliefs, moral, custom, conventions, and values of a society represent its culture. Art, myth, story, folklore, song, rituals, or civilization area, an embodiment of culture. Language preserves it. A huge chunk of this repository of information is lost if language is lost. Traditions dating back the century are handed down from one generation to another through language. Culture without language cannot exist, as the latter represent a value system. Language gives name to relationship, beliefs, our way of life, and how we relate to the people around us. We derive self-esteem and pride through language. Our cultural identity as to know who are we, or who we are, and where we came from is reinforced through language. Okay, to make the long story short, when we say language, this is the one who describes us, and when we say culture, this is the one who represent who we are. Okay, and besides, language is our way to share information about our culture to other people. That is why language has a big factor in our personality. That is why when the language is lost, everything inside our culture will be lost also. Okay, and now let's move on to first language and studying second language. Okay, according to the abstract, it says that with first language learner immersed in their own culture, connection between language and culture of 10 never come to question. For foreign language, where their culture intricacy and understanding are situated well beyond textbook, and understanding of language assume a very different form. While is it possible to separate language and culture, one has to question the validity and implication such separation brings. Okay, for us to understand it easily, I will give you some example. Okay, there is a Filipino man who is tried to study second language or a foreign language, but it's hard for him to master it because of the proper use of a word in a specific culture, just like or a place, just like for example the word pussy. Some country use it to describe cat or kitten, but in other culture, to be specific, in America they use the word pussy to describe a vagina. That is why if we want to master a second language or a foreign language, we need to consider, or we need to know the proper use of every small sentence that we're going to use when we are communicating with someone. In addition to first language versus studying second language or foreign language, is people who study it will face or can be faced a barriers to second or foreign language learning. Culture differences may cause confusion and cultural misunderstanding. Learners may have problem communicating with target native speakers rather. Because of cultural differences, learning a second language means learning to speak and comprehend it. Just like what I've stated a while ago, if we want to master the second language, we want to consider the different usage of every sentence or every word rather. Thank you for listening and watching. Once again, my name is Jerome R. Asuncion from English 2-1. Enjoy!
For the introduction of this paper, it is explained here what is the importance of understanding the relationship between language and the culture. Language learners need to appreciate the differences between the opinions of the relationship between language and the culture, for us to enlighten between the diversities of the views towards the use of language. Moreover, knowing the different views or insights will not just benefit the second users of it or the second language users. It will also benefit to the first language users. Those insights also will serve as an open door for both language and culture, or how it will affect the perception of a people towards his or her life. It also affects the interpersonal relationships of the people, because in order for you to use the language, it will involve socialization. The paper begins with the concepts of the culture and the language and the connection of these two, in which language determines language uses. Cultural values determine the way we use language. Did claim that the relationship between the two did not exist. Now, the next reporter will further explain these things. Clarify something.
Hi classmates! The phrase language is culture and culture is language is often mentioned when we are talking about language and culture. It is because the two of them have a complex relationship. It is clear that language and culture develop and influence each other as they evolve. Thus, it explains the reason why the two are intertwined. A particular language usually points out to a specific group of people. When we interact with another language, we also interact with another culture that speaks that language. Thus, it is clear that one cannot understand one's culture without accessing directly to its language. On the same page, ALMS 2013 points out that language and culture has an intricate relationship. As for the reason that it is hard for us to determine the cognitive processes of each individual when they communicate. Moreover, Wardlaw and Tanasolas each define language in a somewhat different way, with the former explaining or expounding it as what it is, and with the latter perceiving it as it relates to culture. Wardlaw's definition only insinuates that the speech acts we perform are somehow connected or directly connected with the environments they are performed in. Hence, he appears to define language with consideration for context. For an instance, if you live in a place where a lot of gay people live and they speak gay lingo, you might as well grow up learning and speaking that language. That is an example of the definition given by Wardlaw. Though Wardlaw did not mention culture per se, Tanasolas 2001 more directly defined language in the following. And if we were to discuss the relationship between language and culture, we must first discuss or tackle what culture refers to. And in culture's definition by Goodenough, it states that a society's culture is made up of an individual's knowledge and belief that acts accordingly to the acceptable manner to that acceptable manner of the community is part of. Therefore, we could conclude that we could perceive culture as a way of life of the people, and it refers to the systems of knowledge, values, beliefs, experiences shared by a relatively large number of people. Consequently, in composing the definition of culture, we could discern that the concept is often better understood and the concept of how the members of a culture operate both individually and as a group. It is therefore clear how important it is for the members of any society to understand the actual power of their words and the actions when they interact. For this episode's takeaway, Salzman is quoted by Tana Salas as saying that language is a key to the cultural past. But it is also a key to the cultural present as it presents the ability of what is and what has been thought, believed, and understood by its members. Thank you for watching today's episode. See you on the next episode of the School World's ELL Talks. Bye, classmates!